Colonial powers pushed drugs and got entire nations hooked. When we think of colonial empires, we picture warships, plantations, and stolen riches. But behind that, there was something darker, more addictive. From opium in China to cocoa leaves in South America, European powers were just conquering lands, they were exporting chemical control. Today, we're unpacking the drugs that fueled the age of empire and how they shaped the modern world in ways we're still feeling. Let's be real, colonialism wasn't about exploration, it was about money. And in the 1600s through the 1800s, few things made more money than addictive substances. Britain wanted tea from China, lots of it. But China didn't want British goods in return. So the British East India Company turned to something more sinister, opium. They grew it in India, smuggled it into China, and created millions of addicts to fund their tea addiction. By the early 1800s, opium sales made up nearly half of British exports to China. The Chinese emperor tried to stop it. Britain went to war. Twice. That's right, the opium wars were basically drug turf wars on a global scale. Native Americans had used tobacco in rituals for centuries. The English, particularly in Virginia, turned it into a business. By the 17th century, tobacco was literally saving the colony's economy. It became so valuable, it was used as money. Demand in Europe exploded. Smoking became fashionable, even sexy. And the drive for more tobacco fields meant one thing: more land, and more enslaved people to work it. Let's kill the myth that these empires accidentally caused the addiction. They didn't stumble into it, they planned for it. Addictive substances meant repeat customers. Drug economies meant social control. This wasn't a bug in the system, it was the system. And it wasn't just exotic drugs. The British exported gin to West Africa to fuel the slave trade. The French peddled absinthe in their colonies. The Dutch moved nutmeg and cloves, some of which were laced with narcotics. The crazy part? Entire systems were built around drug profits. India grows it, Britain ships it, China smokes it. One drug, three empires. Millions of lives ruined, and profits through the roof. The addiction these empires created came back to haunt them. After decades of humiliation, the Chinese Empire finally cracked down, but not before suffering 2 opium wars, unequal treaties, and a massive public health crisis. The opium legacy left scars that lasted through the 20th century and shaped China's modern stance on drugs in the West. By the early 1900s, cocaine was seen as dangerous, especially as it spread in working-class communities. Governments who once pushed coca now criminalized it. What started as colonial chemistry became a global drug war. Today, tobacco kills over 8 million people a year, and its roots, planted in colonialism. The same plantations that grew sugar and cotton often grew tobacco, all powered by enslaved labor. Colonial empires didn't just loot gold and enslave people, they engineered global addiction, one drug at a time. They took sacred plants, turned them into products, built trade routes around them, and left entire nations in crisis. And while we talk about decolonization, we rarely talk about detox. But if you trace the roots of today's drug epidemics, pharmaceutical companies, and criminalized substances, many of them lead back to the empire. This is part of history they don't teach in school, but it's one that's still pulsing in our veins. Thank you for joining me today and learning more about our history. If you'd like to see more, please consider liking and subscribing. What would you like to see next? Leave a comment below.